Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us for this week's Bible study here at the prayer page. We're going to start off at Genesis chapter 16, verse 13. So if you want to go ahead and turn over to that passage, if you have your Bibles, that's where we're going to start. Is from Genesis 16:13. This is going to be our next series of lessons on the names of God. We're going to be talking about how God sees us. But before I go into the lesson, just kind of give you an update what's going on with me. Um, we tried doing the Facebook Live feature again, and the system worked perfectly. There was nothing wrong with that. But physically for me, it's a bit difficult for me to do the Bible study later in the day. Things were not working out as well as I had hoped. So we're going to go back to the recording, doing a recorded Bible study. And certainly if you have any questions about any of our lessons, you can email us. Our email address is theprayerpageus@gmail.com. Or you can message us on Facebook or Twitter, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. So again, let's go ahead and get started. Genesis chapter 16, verse 13. And here, chapter 16, to give you some background, this is talking about the birth of Ishmael. Now I'll give you some background on that. God had went to Abraham and his wife Sarah. They were older people. They were well into their 80s, and they hadn't had any children yet. God had promised him that not only would he have children, but that his seed, his generations to follow, would be as the sands on the sea or as the stars in the sky. Well, Abraham got God had promised that, but nothing really happened. And like most of us, don't get too down on Abraham, because we all do the same thing. He got a wee bit impatient. So both he and his wife got impatient. So his wife went to her handmaid, Hagar. Went to her handmaid Hagar, brought her to Abraham, and basically said, "Look, Abraham, I'm too old. It's not going to happen. Here's my handmaid." Basically, to be blunt, Sarah gave Abraham permission to have a relationship with Hagar, so that she could have a baby, so that his generations would go on. And sure enough, he did. And she got pregnant. She had a son named Ishmael. The descendants of Ishmael, are the ones that are giving the Jews and the Israelites such a hard time. You got Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Syria. They all came from Ishmael. And after the baby was born, Sarah got what you might call buyer's remorse. She wasn't real keen on this. She, was basically regretting the decision and really treated Hagar pretty bad. And so Hagar and her son took off, and she got to a well, and she's, pleading to God. And God basically is telling her, "Look, I'm going to take care of you. This wasn't your fault. I'm going to take care of you. You're going to be fine." And that's where we pick up here in Genesis chapter 16, verse 13. It says here, "And she," again, this is Hagar, "and she called the name of the Lord and spake unto her, Thou God seest me. For she said, Have I also here looked after him that seeth me?" I want to look at those two phrases in verse 13. Thou God seest me, and that thou seest me. Thou seest me. There's a Hebrew word for that. The Hebrew word for thou seest me is ro'eh. It's ro'eh. It means, it's a noun. It means looking, seeing, or sight. Basically, it's as it says here, God sees us. And before I forget, outlines of the lesson are available in the comments section. I keep forgetting to mention that. So it means looking, seeing, sight. What this reminds us is that God is omnipresent. Omnipresent is a Latin phrase. Omni means all. Present means being there. So God sees all. He's not like, I would use myself, but even I'm a bad example. I can only see out of one eye, and I can only see, basically things on this side. I really have no peripheral vision on this side. But let's say even had 20/20 vision. I can only see, even if I'm on, the plains of Kansas where it's flat, there's no trees. I can only see maybe a couple miles. God sees all. He's everywhere. He sees everything. Which brings me to this next passage, Psalms chapter 46, verse 1. Psalms 46:1 says here, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Because God sees all, God knows what's going on. The psalmist here, he says he's a very present help in trouble. What he's saying is that he's there. He is with you. And I don't know about yourself, but again, I can only speak for myself. There's been times in my life where, storms are going on. That old Hee Haw song, if it weren't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. And, I would call to God. And I would say, God, what's going on? And it was just like that old saying, my prayer only made it as far as the ceiling, and it just bounced right back. It's like, where did he go? You said you were going to be here. Well, God is there. He is there. He sees what's going on. And because he's all-knowing, which we're going to talk more about that in another lesson, he sees you. He knows what's going on. And that's why it's important for us to do what Solomon said in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your own understanding. Acknowledge him. He'll direct our paths. So again, we need to, because God is there. God sees what's going on. He knows what he's doing. We need to trust him. And in that verse, it says, trust in the Lord, not with part of your heart, or kind of, sort of, or quotes. No, he says, trust in the Lord with all of your heart, everything that you have, from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, everything you have. Trust God that he knows what's going on. And as well, don't worry about what's going to happen, what might happen tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, or even 4 hours from now. There's things that we can physically do to prepare. We know that. And if you can do that, like studying. I used to be a teacher. I would tell my students, you can pray to pass the test all you want. But God also expects you to do your end by studying. So, yeah, there's certain things that we can do. And if we know we can do it, we need to do it. But there are things you all know what I'm talking about. There are things that we physically cannot. It's completely out of our hands. There's nothing we can do about it. That's where you've got to trust in God. And don't worry about it. Because here's the thing. When you start worrying about it, it's then that Satan will start talking to your heart and get you to worry. And when you're worrying, it robs you of the blessings that you're having now. The joy that you can have right now. Don't let them do that. Because what happens is that, okay, you worry about something, oh, that didn't happen, but oh no, there's something down here. You get to that part, oh, nothing happened, we're good. And you keep doing that and doing that and doing that, and the next thing you know, you're 70 years old, looking back at life, realizing you worried, you spent 70 years worrying for nothing, and you robbed yourself of the happiness that God gives us, of the peace that God gives us. Psalms chapter 33, verses 13 and 14. God's word says here, the Lord looketh from heaven, he beholdeth all the sons of men. From the place of his habitation, he looketh upon all the inhabitants of the earth. See, now we've looked at, ourselves. But again, God not only sees us all the time, he sees everybody all the time. That's why he's God. That's why he's omnipresent. He's everywhere. He's all there, everywhere. And so, maybe there's somebody in your life that has really wronged you. And there's no question about it. You know it. They know it. Others might know it. And it's real easy to either wallow in self-pity or try to seek revenge ourselves. And again, you don't need to be doing that. Don't wallow in that self-pity, because when you do that, again, you're doing two things. Number one, you're robbing yourself of that joy, and you're letting that other person control you. Don't go there. And as far as the revenge part, Paul told the church at Romans that vengeance belongs to God. Romans chapter 13. Revenge belongs to God. God saw what they did. God knows what they did. It's not our job. We don't belong to ourselves. We belong to God. So it's not our job to get revenge on them. It's God's job. And again, think about it. I said this before and I'll say it again. When it comes to doing things to other people, we are very limited as far as what we can do. Not just legally, but even illegally. We're limited in what we can do compared to God. The God that created the universe. The God that created the F3 tornado I saw almost 20 years ago and just stood there and watched. It wasn't coming in our direction. It was huge and it was awesome. Destructive, yeah. But the God that created that created Katrina, or the floods, or the God of creation, the God that created hell, he can do, when it comes to revenge, he can exercise vengeance in ways that I like to put beyond anything we can imagine. His revenge is epic. Epic proportion. So let God take care of that revenge. He's seen what happened. He knows what's going on. Let him take care of it. Again, I want to thank you for watching. And basically what's going to happen after this, every Thursday, I'm going to do the recording. The recordings will be available no later than Friday, depending on what my schedule is. I'll try to get them to you on Thursdays, but definitely I'll guarantee it by Friday. So next week we'll continue our series on the names of God. And again, I want to thank you for taking your time to watch. Have a safe week, and God bless.